Hello, I am Paul McWhirter, and I have been a member of the Fly Fishing Club for many years. Uh, and this session that we're going to do tonight is we're going to look at fly selection, and we're going to talk a little bit about the life cycle of flies. And we need to have an idea of the life cycle. As you can see in the video, we have the nymph who is on the bottom of the stream. As he matures, becomes the emerger as he's shedding the exoskeleton, and the emergers are right under the film of the water. And when you see fish hitting something and they are not coming out of the water, you can pretty well be assured that they're after emergers. Then this is the dun. The dun is on top of the water until his wings dry. Then he flies away and becomes the mating adult, which then comes back to the top of the water and lays the eggs. And as the eggs drop to the bottom of the stream, then they hatch, and then we start with the nymph again and go back through the life cycle. The goal of selecting flies is try to match the hatch, and there are many sources of information that you can access to be able to get the knowledge you need to be able to match the hatch. If you want to really become a entomologist, then this is a very good book, the Bug Book. It talks about the various insects, talks about their life cycles, and also it talks about flies that will imitate those insects. So this is a very good book. Also, we have this book, which is a good source of information. This was written by Don Kirk and Greg Ward. This was the third book that Don had written, and this is 2011 copyright. This book has hatch guides for the different months in the national park in the Smoky Mountains. And if you match the hatch there, you're matching the hatch for eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina, and North Georgia. And you can pretty well use these same guides for that. And it breaks it down by the month, and it talks about the different insects that are hatching off at those times of the month. And this is a very good book. This is a good book. This book by Jim Caseta, if you're interested in fishing, we're not going to smoke the mountains, but we're going to fish the Smoky Mountains. Jim Caseta, and there is a book by a fellow by the name of Lawrence that's a good guide, and Ian Rudert, who is a fly fishing guide in Townsend, Tennessee, has written a good book too. As we say, lots of sources of information. These are good guidebooks. What I do when I'm fishing a new area, I'll usually buy a guidebook that talks about the streams, what fish are available in the streams, and what kind of flies you need to fish these streams with and expect to catch fish. Other sources of information are guides, fly shops, guidebooks, as I've said. If you were going to put together a fly box to get ready to go fishing in, if you were going trout fishing in the Smoky Mountains, I would recommend that you get Parachute Adams. The Parachute Adams, I'd get from size 12 down to size, at least a size 20, maybe even a 22. The 20s and the 22s imitate the blue-green olive hatches that come out, that happen in the wintertime. And you can use that fly for those. The Adams, it can copy a lot of flies. It's be a mayfly, whatever, and I get the Parachute simply because I can see it. The Parachute's white, and you can see it floating on the water. I also would recommend caddis. I would get tan elk hair caddis, and again, I would get from a size 12 down to probably a 16. And then I would get black elk hair caddis to put in my box. And they're usually smaller. I would probably get 16 and maybe an 18 for the winter hatch. The caddis and the Parachute Adams are two of the main flies I use. There are other flies. There's Smoky Mountain Candy, and there's Thunderhead that were originally tied at the Smoky Mountains, and you can pick them up at fly shops up there. I would also, if I was fishing the Smokies and western North Carolina, I would get yellow Parachute Adams, and I would also get a yellow never sink caddis to put in my fly box, and probably 14s, 16s would be what you would want. Primarily fish 16s, and the yellow is real good in the summertime from the end of May through the end of August, or maybe even the 1st of September, or through September in the Smokies. Also, I would put in my fly box terrestrial flies. I would use foam beetles. I would use ant patterns. I would use black and brown ant patterns, and I would get the Chernobyl ant, which is a big fly, and it can imitate several different things. Crane flies, whatever, any grasshoppers, they can imitate several different things, and I would get probably size 12 and 14 hoppers, and I'd probably have a 14, 12, 14, and 16 beetles, and maybe 16 and 18 ants. And those, and I would recommend woolly boogers, black and olive, to fish the Smoky Mountains in North Georgia, and well, actually, we've caught fish on olive woolly boogers from Michigan to the Smoky Mountains to Alabama to Alaska. So it's a great fly. It imitates several different things. It looks like a leech. It can look like crawfish. It can look like a stonefly nymph. I mean, there's several things that it imitates, and it's just a very good wet fly to use. Nymphs, hare's ear nymph, prince nymph, and peacock herl nymph are good all-around nymphs to have, and I'd get them in at least a 12 all the way down to an 18 at least. And there are different types. I mean, you can get them just a plain nymph, or you can get them with a flashback. I like the flashback ones. And also on the woolly buggers, I forgot to mention, but I would, if I were tying them, I would put rubber legs on them. The fish seem to like them better with the rubber legs. And the nymphs that I talked about, they can, and the caddis nymphs, you can get the caddis nymphs, they're good to have. And I would, I like the flashbacks, and those are the nymphs that I would get. They imitate just about anything, any of the fly, immature fly that you can have the nymphs do. And to find out, you know, we talked about guides, sources of information, but also you need to talk to guides, find out what they recommend as far as flies. Go by the fly shop, stand around the coffee pot and talk to them in the fly shop, and ask them what they're hitting, what the fish are biting right now, and they'll tell you, and you know, buy you half a dozen flies, and they'll, you know, in there, and then you go back when they voluntarily will tell you where to go fish, and you get to know them, and it's a good thing. You get a lot of good information there. They'll tell you how to fish them. Warm water, like Neely Henry, Weiss Lake, patterns for bass and for brim, woolly buggers. Woolly buggers look like crawfish, and clouser minnows. Clousers, if you get a gray or kind of a greenish, they match the shad colors, and poppers that have a good selection of poppers, anywhere from size 6 to size number 2. You catch bass, brim, and I don't remember what Frank caught his catfish on. He caught a huge catfish, and I don't remember if it was on a clouser or a popper. But and you're going to go around to the tables. There's going to be members of the club that are going to have examples of these flies for you to look at, and I would encourage you to look at them. You know, Jerry Jones has perfected the flip-flop popper. Be sure to talk to Jerry if he's here, and get him to tell you how he makes those poppers. And lots of the club members are excellent fly tyers, and if you're interested in tying your own flies, some of these same flies, there are people here that can help you. And now I would normally, if I wasn't having this video, would normally say, are there any questions? So if they are, Mary can answer.
Thank you, Paul.